No one is chosen without walking through fire. That fire is not of this world, but a light that burns and purifies, cutting deep into the soul to see if the heart is truly worthy of its mission. The chosen ones do not come to blend in with the crowd. They come to endure, to carry, to learn how to stand tall when the world wishes to see them fall. Every breath they take is a silent battle between light and shadow, between the longing for salvation and the fear of being forgotten. The world often admires the strong, but it never truly understands the price of strength. They see resilience, but not the nights spent awake in silence, holding their spirit together so it would not break. They praise the chosen ones when they stand tall, but whisper in fear when they stumble. They love strength, yet despise fragility, forgetting that no steel is forged without blood. Psalm 66:10 says, "For you, O God, have tested us, you have refined us as silver is refined." That verse reminds us, only through trials can truth be proven. That day, they told me being chosen was a blessing. They said I was born to guide, to carry a power that others could not. But they never told me that light could also be a chain, that when the world believes in your strength, you are no longer allowed to tremble. They call you a symbol, a faith, an eternal image. But no one asks, does the symbol know how to hurt? Does it ever, in a moment of loneliness, wish it were just human, allowed to fear, to cry, to fall? I remember clearly the first time the fire touched me. It was not warm. It burned. It did not illuminate. It scorched away every layer of falsehood I had worn to survive. When you are chosen, you believe you are invincible. But the truth is, you are only a trembling soul, learning to endure a light too fierce to be consumed by. Because light has teeth, and it bites deeper than the darkness ever did. They say, don't let them see you fall. But how can you keep a shattered armor intact? How can you hide the old wound still bleeding within, while the world demands that you smile? Every word of praise becomes a stone pressed upon your chest. Every time you endure becomes a hammer striking metal not yet cooled. One day, in the bright light of their admiration, you hear a faint crack. It is not loud, but it is real. And you know the fire is starting to claim its due. The world will not see it right away. They still look at you and see the perfect image they need. But deep inside, a soul is crying out for help. Each night, in broken breaths, you ask yourself, if I can no longer be strong, then who am I? And in the darkness, the answer comes not from man, but from something older, deeper, echoing from within the ashes. You were not made to fit in. You were made to rise. But rising does not always mean victory. Sometimes it means daring to admit you are tired, daring to pause, daring to let the fire consume you, to burn away the old self, so that in the ashes, something new can be born. That is the beginning of truth. The moment the chosen one stops fearing weakness and starts learning to be honest with their own heart. I once believed silence was strength, that endurance was victory, that tears were forbidden for the chosen. But the more you hide, the higher the flames rise. They find their way through the cracks in your heart. They urge you to scream, but you cannot, because the world is too used to your strength. They do not know that true strength is not in holding back tears, but in daring to let them fall. Psalm 56:8 says, "You have kept count of my tears. You have stored them in your bottle." It means no tear is ever meaningless, not even those of the chosen. One night, when I could bear it no longer, I cried. There was no light, no audience, only me, and a cold sky. And in that moment, I realized something no one had ever taught me. The tears of the chosen do not fall to the ground like others. They dissolve into the air, blending with the breath of the world, making the wind pause, turning the sky a different hue. I felt everything around me, every grain of dust, every heartbeat, listening. It was no longer a private pain, but the trembling of creation itself. Perhaps that was when I understood the saying, "The sharpest steel is forged in the hottest fire." The fire does not only come from outside challenges, but from within, from what you try to hide. The chosen one is not unbreakable. They are simply the ones who have burned long enough to no longer fear the flames. And when you stop fearing, the fire becomes your ally. It stops consuming and starts illuminating. A small light flickered in my mind. 111, the number of beginnings. I did not know why, but it kept appearing, like a sacred mark carved into my soul. 111 means a gate is opening, Whenever the soul is ready, the number appears to remind you it is time to cross the threshold, to leave behind the old image and accept what is coming. I know some will feel it too, sometimes on a license plate, on a clock, or in a dream. If 111 appears in your life, perhaps it is not by chance. The chosen ones are not born to be endlessly strong. They are born to understand what true strength means. And true strength is the courage to break, because only in the ruins can we hear our own hearts beyond the noise of the world. I understood that the night I looked up and saw the stars shining down a secret meant only for souls that have walked through fire. Every pain carries the shape of an invitation, a call to return to yourself. I do not know who is hearing this. Maybe you too are standing at the edge between resilience and breaking. Maybe you are holding yourself together in a role the world expects of you. If so, let this fire whisper a truth to you. You are not alone. Every chosen soul has fallen once. Every flame that ever burned bright has faded, only to be lit again. And in the moment you think you are collapsing, something greater is being born. Psalm 40:1 once said, "I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry." Perhaps that is all we need to remember when the fire comes, that He always listens, even when all we can do is stay silent. When the night closes and the ashes cool, I realize I am no longer the one burned by the fire, but the one who carries it within. And from that quiet place, a single spark rises, the beginning of what is to come, when the chosen sheds their first tear and the world begins to change. A drop of water falls, touching the earth like the ringing of the universe. No one hears it, yet the air trembles softly, as if everything bows before something sacred that has just occurred. Because the tears of the chosen are not like the tears of ordinary souls. They are not the end of pain, but the beginning of a deeper movement, one that both heaven and earth fall silent to listen to. I do not know exactly when that moment began. Perhaps after too many long nights, after too many times I had to smile while my heart was breaking. Perhaps it was when I realized I had nothing left to prove. Every endurance, every silent prayer, every quiet strength I thought would last forever, all broke at once. And in that fleeting instant, a tear fell, carrying everything I had ever tried to hide. No one saw it, but I could feel it, the ground trembling slightly, as if it understood what had just been released. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit." I had read that verse many times, but only then did I understand. When the heart breaks, it is not destruction, it is a doorway into the divine presence we have always sought, yet only dare to touch when every mask has fallen. Perhaps that is why tears make us feel so close to God. People often say strength means not crying, but the truth is the opposite. True strength lies in the ability to let tears fall without shame. When the first tear rolled down my cheek, I felt as if my body was being freed from a pressure that had held me captive for too long. Each breath grew deeper. Each sob carried away part of the ashes of old fears. Tears were no longer a sign of weakness. They were the soul renewing itself. Scientists say crying is a biological reaction, a release when emotions overflow. But for the chosen, I believe it is more than that. When pain reaches its deepest layer, our energy touches the boundary between matter and spirit. Tears then are not just water. They are a current carrying a message, a signal sent to the universe saying, "I am ready." And I swear, if you have ever cried so deeply that the ground beneath you seemed to tremble, you know that feeling. Your pain does not just reach your heart, it spreads through space like a sacred frequency. I once thought only miracles could change the world, but no, it is the silent tears that move heaven and earth. A person can hide anger, pride, even love, but they cannot hide true pain. When tears fall, it is the soul speaking its most ancient language, a language understood by all creation, by wind, earth, and light alike. I remember that feeling clearly, nothing but silence. But in that silence, I heard the whisper of the wind, as if someone was speaking the words I could not say. "Do not be afraid. This is not the end." The words came as softly as breath, yet carried the power of a promise. And then, something strange happened. Memories flooded back. Every smile, every loss, every night I had sat by the window watching the world drift by. All of it played like a slow film, then faded into a pale blue light. I understood. My soul was being cleansed. There was something all who have fallen know. After tears comes not weakness, but peaceful emptiness. When you have cried long enough, released every burden, a quiet stillness arrives. You no longer feel the need to fight. You just sit there, watching your reflection in the dark, realizing you still exist. No armor, no glory, only breath and a soul that still feels. I think of those who have walked through pain like I have, the chosen ones in this chaotic world. They do not boast of strength. They simply stand, carrying in their eyes the soft shadow of what they have lost. They are the ones who understand that tears do not make us weak. They return us to who we truly are. And perhaps that honesty is what makes them shine in the night. Someone once asked me, why must the chosen suffer so much? I have no absolute answer, but I believe it is because only through pain can the soul learn to see true light, not the light of glory, but the light of truth. Just as gold gleams only after it passes through fire, the soul becomes pure only after it melts in its own tears. And then, in that stillness, an image appeared in my mind, a lion standing in the desert. It did not roar, it simply gazed toward the horizon. Dust swirled around it, yet in its eyes burned the calm light of one who understands the power of silence. A lion never roars without reason. I remembered that saying. Just like the chosen, they do not cry without reason. When they cry, it is a sign of transformation, a warning to those who once mistook their silence for weakness. I suddenly recalled a verse from Psalm 126:5. Those who sow in tears will reap with shouts of joy. Perhaps every tear carries within it a seed. When it touches the ground, it plants new fields. The chosen do not cry because they are weak. They cry to make way for something greater to be born. That night, I looked up at the sky. The clouds gathered. The moon hid behind a veil of mist, and I felt something shifting inside me. It was no longer fear, but a strange gratitude. I realized that pain could be beautiful if we learn to see it through the light of faith. Everything that once made me fall has now become the ground on which I rise. Every tear that once shamed me has become the drop that nourishes my soul. I know there will be another day when I look back and smile because of this tear. Because the moment it fell, everything changed. True strength is no longer the armor we wear, but the heart that dares to melt and still remain steadfast. The chosen are not those who have never fallen, but those who have fallen 1,000 times and still choose to rise, because they understand fragility is the language of the divine. As I close my eyes, a gentle breath moves along my spine, like new energy flowing in. I do not know what awaits me ahead. I only know that in this silence, I have been reborn. And if you are hearing this, if your heart has ever felt heavy as stone, let it soften. Let the tears fall if they must, because sometimes it only takes one tear for the world to begin to change. No one truly knows what happens after the first tear falls. People think that once you cry, the pain will fade. But for the chosen, tears do not end anything. They awaken a storm. That storm does not rage outside. It rises from within the heart, spreading through every cell, every breath. When the soul breaks open, its energy does not vanish. It transforms. Like thunder that does not disappear when the rain stops, it only changes shape, finding another way to be heard. The night after, I woke up in the dark. There was no sound, yet I could feel the air vibrating softly, like the earth itself was sighing. Everything around me seemed to be waiting for something about to happen. I stood up, stepped outside, and saw the sky darker than any night before. No stars, no moon, just an endless abyss. And yet, somewhere in that darkness, I could sense a current of energy swirling, as if the universe was taking a deep breath before shifting direction. Then, from the deepest corner of memory, I heard a voice I thought I had forgotten. You thought I was silent, but I have been listening all along. I knew it was not a human voice. It was the voice of the Great Presence, the one many call God, Source, or life itself. In that moment, I no longer felt like a lost being wandering the world, but a small part of something sacred awakening. Psalm 30:5 says, "Weeping may stay for the night, but joy comes in the morning." Perhaps this was the dawn that verse spoke of, but before light can arrive, darkness must first be complete. I understood then that tears do not just cleanse the soul, they awaken it. When the soul awakens, everything buried begins to rise. The anger once suppressed, the love once forgotten, the courage once stolen. They all return at once, swirling in an invisible wind. I could see them, not with my eyes, but with my being. Small sparks of light circling around me, each one a memory that once hurt, now transformed into energy, glimmering like stars in the night. That storm did not destroy me. It restructured me. When the soul vibrates at a higher frequency, the outer world begins to respond. I saw strange things. The wind shifting direction, branches trembling though there was no breeze, leaves falling in perfect rhythm. None of it was random. Everything seemed to resonate with the transformation happening within me. For a moment, I felt like the eye of a storm, the still center surrounded by the motion of the universe. That was when I understood. Everything that once broke me was only pushing me closer to my true essence. Pain does not come to punish, but to awaken. And when you have the courage to face it, not run from it, it teaches you how to fly. Isaiah 61:3 says, "To bestow on those who mourn a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning." That verse felt carved into my heart. No one else will save us. It is our own tears that will. Then, a faint light appeared before me, dim like a spark in the mist. I did not know where it came from, but I knew I was no longer alone. A gentle presence surrounded me, like an invisible hand resting on my shoulder, so soft it barely touched, yet warm enough to steady my heart. I breathed deeply and felt a clarity I had never known before. Everything was beginning again. If you are hearing these words, perhaps your soul is in the middle of its own storm. Do not fear it. The storm does not come to destroy. It comes to clear away what no longer belongs to you. Let the wind take away old expectations, the roles you are tired of carrying. Because when the storm passes, the ground will be new, and so will you. There is one thing I learned from that night. When the world thinks you are breaking, you are actually being rebuilt. When they see your tears and call you weak, only you know that the fire within is turning into a new strength. Like lightning, it can only be born when the energy becomes powerful enough to tear open the sky. And in the midst of that chaos, a small voice rose within me. If you knew the value of a tear, you would never be ashamed of it. I smiled through my tears. For the first time in years, that smile was not to hide my pain, but to say thank you. Thank you to the storm, to the fire, to the wounds that helped me recognize the sacred living within me. I do not know why, but suddenly a number appeared in my mind. 333, the number of guidance. People say it is a sign of angels, of unseen companionship from above. I did not try to understand. I simply felt its truth. 333 felt like a message that I was not alone on this path, that even in our darkest night, invisible hands are still lifting us up. If this number speaks to you, let it rest in your heart as a promise that you too are being guided. I looked up at the sky, the storm still turning in silence. But among the thick clouds, a thin beam of light appeared, trembling like the first breath of dawn. And I knew when that light touches the earth, the world will never be the same again. This is the moment of transformation, of rebirth, of the promise that pain is never meaningless. If you are hearing these words, perhaps your soul is knocking on the door of a new chapter. Let the storm move through you, not to destroy, but to make room for the light to enter. Remember, even in the darkest night, the divine is still writing your story, with tears, with fire, and with the steady heart that refuses to fade. And perhaps, in the very moment you think you have lost everything, that is when you are being born again. If these words touch you, leave a small sign for the world to know you are still here. A comment, a share, even a breath will do. Because every time we admit we are still alive, the light wins once more. The next morning, the sky was unusually clear. The storm had passed, yet the air still carried the scent of fire, that dry, lingering fragrance, like the last breath of an invisible battle. I sat by the window, quietly watching the drops of water resting on the leaves. The sunlight passed through them, turning each one into a tiny crystal, beautiful to the point of pain. Perhaps the world has always been this beautiful. We just have never been still enough to truly see it after the storm. When the chosen one cries, the world changes color. Not because those tears perform miracles, but because they tear open the veil of illusion humanity has kept for too long. For generations, we were taught that strength means never shedding a tear, that the strong do not tremble, do not fall, do not show weakness. But one day, when the one everyone believed could never break finally goes silent, then weeps, the whole world must stop. Because if even they can break, then what in this world is truly unbreakable? They once worshipped you as a symbol, as an undying flame, but they forgot that even fire, no matter how bright, still needs air to breathe. And when you cry, they do not understand that it is not defeat, it is survival. 2 Corinthians 12-9 says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." That verse echoed in my mind like a quiet symphony. True power does not come from being unfeeling, but from daring to be weak, daring to be real, daring to live as a human being. In that truth, I saw clearer than ever. The world does not fear your strength. It fears the moment you realize you no longer have to be strong, because in that moment, you are free. And freedom is something they cannot control. I remember the eyes of those who expected me never to fall. They looked at me and saw betrayal in my tears, as if I had broken the image they worshipped. But I knew they were not truly angry. They were afraid. Because when they saw the one they thought was unbreakable cry, they were forced to face the truth, that they too were hiding their own weakness. They could no longer say, "I'm fine," when even the strongest one was not. And so, the tears of the chosen become a mirror. They reflect everything. The pretending, the worship, the masks humanity wears just to survive. When you cry, you do not just free yourself, you expose the world. One tear, yet enough to crack the surface of every illusion. That is why your tears make others afraid. They think they are witnessing a collapse, but in truth, they are seeing a reality they cannot face. And in that trembling moment, they grow silent, not out of contempt, but because for the first time, they hear the true sound of humanity. When I let my tears fall, I no longer felt ashamed. I felt free. I no longer tried to prove anything, no longer played the role of the strongest in the room. I was simply me, a soul breathing, hurting, living. And in that bare truth, I felt a different kind of power. Deeper, quieter, not loud like victory, but steady, like the first breath of creation. I remembered a verse from Psalm 46-10, "Be still and know that I am God." That is not a promise of miracles, but a command of trust. Be still. Stop. Do not resist the pain, because only in stillness can we hear the true voice of the soul. I closed my eyes and felt every cell in my body settle. No more fire, no more storm, only the steady rhythm of a heartbeat, a rhythm that needed no reason, only the will to continue. And in that stillness, I realized tears do not only make us weaker, they open a door into compassion, not only from God, but from ourselves to ourselves. Perhaps that is the secret every chosen one must discover. Greatness is not in never falling, but in falling and still choosing to love yourself, in embracing the darkness within without pushing it away. Because only when we accept our brokenness does the light have a place to stay. Outside, the wind stirred the branches gently. The sky remained clear. I saw my reflection in the window pane. No longer the hardened image from before, but a real face. Soft, tired, yet peaceful. I thought, perhaps this is who I truly am. Not perfect, not grand, just real. In that moment, I heard 3 numbers echo inside me. 111, 333, and 777. They came like a song, flowing one after another, beginning, protection, and awakening. I understood that my journey had entered a deeper layer. 111 reminded me that every breaking is a new doorway. 333 confirmed that I am not alone. And 777, the number of spiritual awakening, shone like a torch, lighting the next path ahead. I do not know who is hearing this, but if one of these numbers stirs something in your heart, perhaps it is speaking to you too. Share the number that resonates with you most. For sometimes, speaking it aloud is itself an act of awakening. I took a deep breath, letting it merge with the air around me. There was no boundary anymore between inside and outside, between human and universe. Only pure presence. And within it, I heard my own whisper, small but unwavering. I am no longer afraid of being weak, because only when the unbroken weep does the world learn to bow before truth. And in that moment that seems weakest, a greater power is born, not to conquer, but to illuminate. The storm has passed, but the light has not yet come. Between the two, I sit in stillness, waiting, no longer resisting, no longer demanding. Because sometimes it is in that quiet in-between that miracles are made. And I know the next part of the journey will no longer be about pain, but about what is rising from the ashes, the rebirth of the chosen soul. Not every flame is born from a match. Some flames are born from tears, quiet and transparent, yet burning with the heat of a soul that has endured too long. When the last tear fell, I thought it was the end, but it was only the beginning. A strange beginning, where pain began to transform, like coal turning into diamond in the night. In that moment, the world around me became more still than ever. No wind, no whisper of worry. Everything sank into silence. Not the silence of loneliness, but the calm that comes before something great is born. I could feel it clearly in my heart, a small light rising from the ashes. It was not bright, not fierce, just a soft amber glow like fire in a furnace. Yet I knew it was life returning. Psalm 18:16 says, "He reached down from on high, took hold of me, and drew me out of deep waters." I whispered that verse over and over like a prayer, and I realized God does not always save us by stopping the storm. Sometimes He lets us sink deep so that we may find His hand within the darkness itself. And when we finally touch it, it is no longer a miracle given from above, but one awakened from within. Pain was no longer the enemy. It became the teacher. Every tear that fell was a lesson written in blood, teaching me patience, acceptance, and gratitude. I began to understand that tears, when released with a pure heart, hold a power greater than any flame. They can cleanse the air, melt the ice around another's heart, and bring back to life what once seemed lost within us. I sat still, watching my hands tremble in the dim light. From the center of my palm, I imagined a small spark growing. It was what remained from every breaking, fragments of faith, hope, and forgotten love. But when gathered together, they radiated a strange light, a light only those who have wept can truly see. And then I realized something I had never dared to admit. The very things that broke me were the fuel that helped me rise. Every lie, every betrayal, every loss that once crushed me was now the fire burning away the darkness around me. When the soul no longer fears pain, pain becomes energy. When you no longer fear losing, loss becomes freedom. The world once believed that when the chosen one fell, they would grow weaker. But no, they were transforming. Because their tears did not just fall, they transmuted. Every drop carried the energy of 1,000 memories, 1,000 long nights. And when it touched the earth, those memories did not fade. They ignited. Like lightning striking the ground to create fire, the tears of the chosen touched the mortal world and sparked the divine. Before my eyes, as if in a dream, I saw thousands of thin strands of light rising from where the tears had fallen. They swirled, circled, and merged into a soft halo surrounding my body. No one had ever taught me this, yet I understood. This was new energy, the beginning of what I had once only prayed for, rebirth. A warm current filled my chest, flowed down to my core, and moved along my spine, as if I were being charged by an unseen source. The heaviness was gone, replaced by radiance, and in that instant, I heard a whisper, soft, yet clear as wind against the ear. "You are ready." I knew it was a signal, not from outside, but from my own soul. From the deepest place within, where darkness once lived, light was now shining. And with that voice came a number in my mind, 111. I had seen it before, in the moment the first tear fell, but now it glowed brighter. 111. The sign of beginnings, the doorway opening between two worlds, where the soul stops fearing and starts creating. They say when you see 111, it is an invitation from the universe, a call to step beyond the old threshold, from pain to power, from shadow to light. And if you sense that number appearing around you, on a clock, in a dream, or as a fleeting feeling, know that you are not alone. You are being called to begin again. I smiled, for the first time in years, not the smile of someone who had won, but of someone who finally understood there was nothing left to fight. There was no enemy but fear itself. When we let tears fall, we release the invisible burdens we have carried for so long, and in that release, we rise. I stood and walked out of the room. Morning light fell softly, thin as silk, Everything around me was still the same. The grass was green, the sky was blue, the birds were flying. Yet I knew the world was no longer what it was. Not because it had changed, but because I had. The way I saw it had changed. I no longer saw a world of struggle, but an open canvas where everything had its place, even pain. In the sky, I saw a faint streak of light, like a spark cutting through the clouds. I closed my eyes and let my breath merge with the rhythm of the universe. Within me, a calm spread wide and became an unspoken prayer. Thank you for letting me break, so I could become whole. When I opened my eyes, I knew this journey was not over. What had just awakened was only the beginning. The tears had turned to fire, and the fire was about to become light. Ahead, there may still be trials, but this time, I am no longer afraid. Because I now know every pain carries within it the seed of life. And when the Chosen One understands that truth, the world will never be the same again. Because when tears turn into flame, the soul itself becomes the torch that lights the way for many. When the flame within me began to steady, the world around me shifted once more. The air grew denser, as if reality itself was breathing with me. From deep beneath the ground, an energy stirred, making the earth tremble as though it was remembering something long forgotten. I stood in that still space, knowing another storm was coming, not a storm of darkness, but of light. When the Chosen One begins to awaken, the universe responds, because every awakened soul is a lamp lit in the night, and when that light grows strong enough, it forces everything around it to realign. I could hear a faint hum, the sound of unseen threads of energy weaving the fabric of the world anew, as if destiny itself were being rewritten. Then, I remembered the words of Psalm 29:3. The voice of the Lord is over the waters, the God of glory thunders. Yes, that voice not to frighten, but to awaken. Each thunderclap is a calling, each flash of lightning a reminder that light is still here, waiting for us to look it in the eye. And in that moment, I understood. God is not only above the heavens, He moves within these very storms, within the burning soul inside me. The storm began not with wind, but with light. A white beam tore across the sky, slicing through the clouds, illuminating everything. I did not know if it was real or within my spirit, but I saw each raindrop shimmer as it touched the ground. Every drop seemed to carry a message, whispering to me, nothing is lost, everything is transforming. The wind rose, but it was not violent. It curled around me, carrying the breath of countless souls who had walked through the fire before me. I could hear them not with my ears, but with my heart. They told me this storm was a baptism, a cleansing for what comes next. I stood still in the center of the storm of light, letting the wind sweep away the remnants of the old. And in that moment, I no longer knew where my body ended and my soul began. I became part of the storm, or perhaps the storm had become me. Every memory that once caused pain dissolved into the air. The faces, the betrayals, the moments of despair, all drifted away like ashes. Only the heartbeat remained, steady and sure. I understood then that to become light, we must first let darkness pass through us without resistance. For light is not found by running from shadow, but by walking through it. At one point, I thought I would melt away in the storm. But just as that thought came, another feeling rose, the sensation of being held, not by human hands, but by an unseen embrace, as if thousands of angels stood around me, forming a circle of light. And I heard a gentle voice, firm yet tender, do not fear. This is not the end. This is birth. As those words echoed, the storm changed color. The white light turned golden, then deepened into a blue as vast as the sea. Everything around me seemed to dissolve into one. The trees, the wind, the earth, the rain, all blending into a single rhythm of movement. There was no separation anymore. Everything was one. And I, a small piece of that vastness, simply listened. Then suddenly, everything stopped. No more wind, no thunder, only silence so deep I could hear the heartbeat of the world itself. In that silence, I realized I no longer carried the energy of pain. I was not the person who had fallen. I was the result of that breaking. I was the outcome of daring to cry, to let go, to let the world tear me apart, so it could piece me back together in a new form. I whispered softly, "Thank you for the storm," because now I understood the storm did not come to destroy, it came to cleanse. When the heart is purified, light is no longer hidden. And in that light, I saw my true face, clearer than ever before. No armor, no roles, just a radiant, raw, and free soul. Revelation 21:4 once said, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death." I had read that verse since childhood, but never fully understood. Now I saw that the death it spoke of was not the body's end, but the death of fear. When fear dies, the soul is reborn. And tears at last no longer fall from pain, but from release. The sky after the storm glowed bright. Not a blinding light, but a gentle one, like the heart of someone who has been cleansed. I lifted my head and saw 3 numbers form within the clouds. 333, faint yet unmistakable. I smiled. I knew I was still being guided. Perhaps the angels had never left. They had only waited for me to grow quiet enough to notice. If you are hearing this and feel your heart stir, know that it is not a coincidence. The storm is calling you too. You may not yet see the light, but trust that it is coming. Every tear you shed, every moment you think you are breaking, is a prayer turning into energy. The storm of light does not destroy, it creates. And when it passes, what remains is not ash, but seed, a seed of strength, of love, of faith. I stood beneath the freshly washed sky, knowing my journey was not over. But now, I no longer walk in darkness. I walk in the light that my own tears have kindled. After the storm, the world grew strangely quiet. Everything seemed freshly washed. Even the air felt lighter. Yet within that clarity, something else began to appear, not complete peace, but a deep exhaustion, like the echo of a long battle, still lingering in every cell. The chosen ones do not collapse because of darkness, but because the light within them grows too heavy. For light too has weight, and sometimes it is that very weight that brings us to our knees. I walked down a sunlit road, yet it felt as if I were moving through a dream. Everything was still, so still. I could hear the rhythm of my own heart. Each beat whispered, "You are still alive, you must keep going." But even after surviving the storm, I realized that the greatest challenge is not the suffering itself. It is learning to carry the light when your soul is tired. The world will praise you when you shine, but it will fall silent when that light begins to drain you. The chosen, no matter how loved or celebrated, remain the loneliest of all. They carry the faith of others on their shoulders, yet few ever ask who carries them. They are seen as anchors, the place where others find strength, but few notice that their own legs are trembling. And when they long to rest, the world calls their name, demanding they rise again, continue again. For people crave the light, but seldom think of the price it takes to keep it burning. One afternoon, I sat by a still lake, watching my reflection. The water was flat and calm as glass, yet I knew that even a single pebble could ripple its surface. My heart felt the same, peaceful on the outside, but full of quiet movement beneath. I had learned to be silent so the world could rest, but no one had ever asked, how many cracks has the soul endured within that silence? I thought of the verse from Psalm 55:22. "Cast your burden on the Lord, and He will sustain you." The words came like a breath. Perhaps God never meant for us to keep carrying so much alone. Perhaps He knows that light cannot stay alive if we refuse to share it. For light was never meant to be owned, it was meant to pass through. I looked up at the sky. Soft white clouds drifted slowly, quiet as a whisper. Let go, my child. The light does not need you to carry it, only to let it flow through you. In the days that followed, I began to practice letting go. Not of life, but of expectation. Not of responsibility, but of the need to be strong all the time. I learned to smile when I was tired. To say, "Today I am not strong enough. Please lift me up." And in that humility, something miraculous happened. I felt lighter, not because the weight disappeared, but because I was no longer carrying it alone. One night, as I sat quietly in the dark, I saw a soft blue light flicker at the edge of my vision, not from a lamp, not from outside, but from within. The number 333 appeared once again, this time not far away in the sky, but close, pulsing like the beat of my heart. I smiled and whispered, "I understand now." Those 3 numbers were a reminder of protection, a sign that unseen hands are always guiding me, even when I believe I'm alone. I asked within, why must the chosen bear so much? And in the stillness, An answer came not in words, but as a feeling, because they are the bridge between heaven and earth, and to be the bridge, one must hold the weight of both. I bowed my head, and tears fell softly. But this time, they were not tears of pain. They were tears of understanding. The chosen no longer need to appear strong. They only need to be honest. Honest in their fatigue, their fear, their fragility. For in that honesty, light becomes pure. I understood that. Light is not something to display, but something to reveal. And sometimes, to illuminate others. We must allow ourselves to be seen, including our wounds, including our shadows. Night fell, and the wind brushed gently through the leaves. I closed my eyes and felt the cool air glide across my skin, not burning as before, but tender, like a hand caressing. In the darkness, I heard the whisper of earth, of wind, of spirit. You do not need to carry the light, for you are the light. I laughed softly, a tired laugh, but true, because now I understood. Being chosen is not about holding up the world. It is about trusting that the world will keep turning even when you rest. God never asked me to be an unending flame. He only asked me to be a fire that loves, that burns, and that also knows how to rest. I lifted my gaze to the sky. The stars shimmered as if smiling. In my heart, the words of Psalm 37:23-24 echoed. The steps of a righteous person are established by the Lord. Though they stumble, they will not fall, for the Lord upholds their hand, and I knew I was being held. No matter how weary, I would not fall again. In the distance, at the edge of dawn, a thin beam of light began to rise. I knew that when that light spread, I would continue on. Not because I must, but because my heart chooses to. I would walk forward, lighter now, not carrying the light on my shoulders, but walking with it beside me, woven into every step. And if you are hearing this, if the light you carry has grown heavy, know this, you are not alone. Let that weight dissolve, and let the number 333 remind you that there is always a hand lifting you up. For light does not need to be held. It only needs to be trusted. And when you trust it, it will guide you home. That night, there was no moon. The darkness stretched like a thick velvet curtain, so deep that even silence seemed to have weight. I sat within it, hearing only the beat of my heart and the rhythm of my breath. The light inside me was still there, but it no longer blazed as before. It glowed softly, deep and steady, like embers beneath the ash. I understood then, the journey was not yet over, because before light becomes pure, it must die once more the death of everything it still clings to, the death of the self that once was. When a soul has carried light for too long, it must learn to let that light refine itself. For within everything we call holy, there still lingers what is human pride, fear, the need to be seen, to be loved. And only when we dare to return that light to the fire does it transform into something clear and crystalline. I looked within and saw that the hardest part of the journey was not facing the darkness, but enduring the purification of the light. When the flame within begins to burn away what is no longer needed, we believe we are losing ourselves. We see everything collapse, we feel hollow, and we grow afraid. But that is the final step of baptism, the moment when we stop being the one who controls and become the one who was reborn. Revelation 21:4 says, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death." I once thought those words spoke of the end of the world, but now I know they speak of this moment. When the old dies, life begins anew. I bowed my head, placed my hand over my heart, and felt the fire burning inside. Each breath grew heavy, yet within that heaviness was something sacred, as if every cell was being remade. In my mind's eye, I saw myself, a body of ash cracking from within, and through each fracture, light began to leak out. I did not resist. I let the light pour through, knowing that when it was done, this body would collapse. But only when the ashes are gone can the soul be free. In that stillness, memories returned. The people who had gone, the words left unsaid, the dreams unfinished, they all appeared, not as pain, but as small glowing sparks floating quietly around me. I understood then that nothing is truly lost. Everything only changes form. Like water turning to vapor, it vanishes from sight, yet remains in the sky. waiting to return as rain. So, I let go. I released everything, holding on to nothing. Then, within that silence, I heard the wind. Not the wind of this world, but one from a deeper realm, gentle, yet charged with a power that moved the air around me. And I knew the baptism had begun. The wind swirled around me, neither cold nor warm, but full of divine force. It lifted me from the weight of my body and carried me into a vast expanse of light, beyond time. There, I felt no pain, no fear, only the sense of being fully seen, fully known, without judgment. And within that brightness, a voice rose, not another's voice, but my own soul, now carrying the tone of heaven. You have walked through fire, now walk through ash. I understood. This was no longer a test, but a rite. I nodded, closed my eyes, and let myself dissolve into the void. I felt my body fade first, the hands, then the chest, then everything. No more weight, no more shape, only light. I do not know how long it lasted. Perhaps a single breath, perhaps 1,000 years. When I opened my eyes, the world before me was transformed. Everything was so clear, it was almost transparent. I looked down at my hands, they were still mine, but glowing faintly gold, as if light was flowing beneath my skin. I no longer carried ashes, I was the ash turned to light. I knelt and touched the earth. The grass was soft, the soil warm, and I realized I was no longer afraid of dirt, no longer afraid of pain. I understood that soil, ash, and light were all the same. In that unity, every boundary between the sacred and the human dissolved. God was no longer far away. He was here, in every breath, in every grain of dust. Within me, a number appeared, 777. This time, it was no longer a promise, but fulfillment. 777, the number of awakening, of divine completion. I understood it was a seal, a sign that the old cycle had ended, and my soul had stepped into a higher realm of light. If you are hearing this, perhaps you are going through your own baptism. Perhaps you are losing, burning, dissolving. Do not be afraid, because only when the ashes fall away can true light rise. Let the fire purify you. Let your tears wash away the dust that clings. For in the end, what remains is not the wound, but purity. I stood, feeling the first sunlight of dawn touch my skin. It no longer burned, it warmed. I knew I had passed through the last night. Ahead of me was light, no longer confined within my chest, but flowing outward, merging with the world. I walked forward, each step light as breath, carrying only quiet gratitude. Behind me, the ashes remained, but they no longer looked like loss. They were new soil, and from that soil, I saw tiny sparks beginning to sprout. The baptism was complete. The light had taken form, and the soul at last had been born for the third time. When I stepped out of the ashes, the air around me felt different. The wind was gentle, yet carried the echo of something ancient, the breath of creation itself. I no longer felt separate from the world. Everything seemed quieter, and in that quiet, I could hear more than ever before the sound of trees growing, the earth breathing, the slow heartbeat of humankind echoing in unnamed loneliness. I realized that awakening does not pull us away from the world. It makes us feel it more deeply. The world was still the same, but my eyes had changed. The faces that once seemed cold no longer appeared as enemies or saints. They were simply souls wrestling with their own fires, just as I once had. I saw them, the ones who mocked, who judged, who turned away. Each carried the same hidden fear, the fear of weakness, of pain, of facing the truth of themselves. They feared tears, because to cry is to admit limitation. Yet it is within tears that we touch what is infinite. When they looked at me, I knew they no longer saw a symbol of strength. They saw a human being. They saw tears still on my face, but not as a sign of defeat as light reflected through them. They froze in silence, for somewhere deep inside, their souls remembered they too once knew how to cry like this. There were trembling eyes, shaking hands that longed to reach out. I saw those who once cast stones now falling to their knees, not to apologize, but because they too were breaking open. No one told them to bow. Truth alone brings knees to the ground. When the chosen reveal their cracks, the world is forced to look in the mirror. And what they see is not their guilt, but the fear they have been hiding from all along. I understood then This was the contagion of light. Like a candle that loses nothing when it lights another, my light forged through fire, and tears was now spreading through the silence of other hearts. No sermon, no proof, only presence. Honest, raw, and real. I saw a man with reddened eyes place a trembling hand over his chest. A woman in the distance wept quietly, her lips moving as if in prayer. A child by the roadside looked at me, unblinking, then smiled. And in that smile, I saw my younger self, innocent, fearless, unburdened by the need to be strong. Perhaps that was when I finally understood what it meant to be chosen. Not to be a hero, not to prove anything to the world. The chosen exist to be mirrors to reflect the Creator's light, so that others, when they look, recognize that same light within themselves. I thought of Psalm 36:9. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light, we see light. Yes, the light is not mine. It simply moves through me, like water through a stream, like wind through the fields. And if I try to keep it, it will fade. But if I let it flow, it multiplies. So I opened my hands and let the light spread. I no longer feared losing it. The light expanded like mist, seeping into the city's corners, into crowded rooms, into the hearts of those quietly aching. I did nothing but stand still, letting the light do its work. Then I witnessed something miraculous. As the light flowed out, it carried sound back in return. A single sob, then another, until countless voices rose together into a symphony of humanity being cleansed. They no longer feared their tears. They let them fall, let their hearts open. And in each tear, I saw millions of tiny spark souls awakening. People say strength is the power to control. But to me, strength is the courage to allow to let the tears fall, to let the light move, to let the world heal through its own honesty. I no longer wished to teach or to lead. I only wanted to be, to exist as living proof that vulnerability does not destroy us, it saves us. As night fell, I sat alone beneath a sky full of stars. No fear, no anger, only a vast, quiet gratitude. I whispered, "Thank you for letting me cry." Because through my tears, I had seen the light in my own eyes and in the eyes of the world. Above me, the stars began to align into a faint shape I saw clearly, 777. The number no longer stood for awakening alone, but for harmony, the union of my soul, the soul of the world, and the soul of God. If you are hearing this, pause for a moment. Breathe deeply. Close your eyes. Let your heart speak louder than your mind. And if tears come, do not stop them. Perhaps in that single drop, there is light waiting to be born. And when you open your eyes, you may see it is not only in me, it is in you. Because when the world dares to look upon the tears of the chosen, it begins to see its own light. And that is how the universe heals, not through conquest, but through compassion falling quietly, like rain. There was no thunder, no great wind to announce it. The return of the chosen always happens in silence. After the fire has burned out, the tears have dried, and the light has spread everywhere. They step forward, not as warriors fighting the dark, but as those who have learned to smile at it, because they understand light is not born to defeat the darkness, but to live beside it. I walked again on the old path, the one marked by tears, by fire, by ashes. Everything was the same. The worn walls, the familiar shadows, the eyes that once looked at me with doubt. And yet, somehow, the world felt smaller, softer, gentler. Maybe it wasn't the world that had changed. Maybe it was me. I no longer saw it through the eyes of fear, but through the gaze of forgiveness. And when you forgive, not just others but yourself, the world softens with you. I felt a peace unlike any I had ever known. It didn't come like a miracle. It came like breath, natural, light, effortless. Psalm 32:11 says, "You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy." I whispered that verse and understood it completely for the first time. All the sorrow that once wrapped around me like a shroud had become a dance. Every crack in my soul, once my shame, now reflected the light of healing. I walked, not quickly, not slow. It felt as if each grain of sand beneath my feet knew my name, as if the earth and the sky were greeting me. I felt no need to carry anything anymore. Not glory, not purpose, not the title of the chosen. All that remained was myself, a simple, whole soul, breathing truth in the present moment. In the journey of the chosen, we think the final reward is power. But no, the real reward is peace. When you no longer need to prove, when you no longer have to hold yourself up to be strong, when you can sit in the midst of the world without fearing it will wound you, that is freedom. A child ran past me, bare feet dusty, smile bright as sunlight. He stopped, looked at me, and asked softly, "Mister, have you ever cried?" I laughed and nodded. "Yes, I've cried a lot." He smiled again and said something I'll never forget. "Then you're the light now." I froze, speechless. My eyes burned, but not from pain, from gratitude. Perhaps within the innocence of a child lies a truth deeper than 1,000 sermons. Only pure hearts can recognize true light, the kind that doesn't need to shine, only to be. I sat down and watched the sun setting. Its last light spread across the ground, merging with everything, making no distinction between what is holy or ordinary, what is beautiful or broken. In that light, I saw the faces of all who had walked with me, the ones who hurt me, the ones who loved me, the souls who passed through my life like wind. All of them were now cleansed, embraced by a single feeling, compassion. The chosen do not return to seek revenge. They return to love. They do not come back to prove they were right, but to show that no one was ever truly wrong. For in the Creator's design, every mistake has its place, every wound has meaning, and every soul, no matter how lost, will find its way home. I felt within me the three numbers aligning: 111, 333, 777. No longer scattered signs from earlier chapters, but now one unified rhythm. 111, the beginning. 333, protection. 777, awakening. Together, they formed a circle of completion. I understood. This was the final seal, not a mark of triumph, but a reminder. The old cycle is complete, and I have come home. If you are hearing this, perhaps you too are standing within your own circle. Maybe you are still in the journey, maybe in the fire, or in the tears. Wherever you are, know this: you too are chosen, not by the world, but by your own soul. And when the time comes, you will rise from the ashes as well, calm, quiet, and radiant. I closed my eyes, let the night wind brush my hair, and listened to the whisper of the universe, the familiar sound of unconditional love. I knew I no longer needed to search. I had come home, not to a place, but to my own heart. On the horizon, the first light of dawn began to bloom. It spread gently, not to dazzle, only to reveal. And in that moment, I heard a voice, deep and warm, as if spoken by the universe itself. "Your journey is complete. Now be the light for others." I smiled. No words. For sometimes, silence is the most beautiful prayer. And so, the chosen one was no longer a legend. They were simply human, but human made sacred by their own tears. And the world, after countless seasons of storm, finally began to breathe again, for it had realized that within every human tear still glows the light of God. Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.